My Gavanin, welcome back to my channel for another Wednesday Tolkien quote day. Today's quote is coming from The Hobbit in chapter 18, when Thorin lies dying and Bilbo he meets up with, and he says to him this. There indeed lay Thorin Oakenshield, wounded with many wounds, and his rent armor and notched axe were cast upon the floor. He looked up at Bilbo, came beside him. Farewell, good thief, he said. I go now to the halls of waiting to sit beside my fathers until the world is renewed, since I leave now all gold and silver and go where it is of little worth. I wish to part in friendship from you, and I would take back my words and deeds at the gate. Bilbo knelt on one knee, filled with sorrow. Farewell, King under the mountain, he said. This is a bitter adventure, if it must end so, and not a mountain of gold can amend it. Yet I am glad that I have shared in your perils. That has been more than any Baggins deserves. No, said Thorin, there is more in you of good than you know, child of the kindly West. Some courage and some wisdom, blended in measure. If more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world. But sad or merry, I must leave it now. Farewell. So that is where the famous quote comes from that some of you may have heard before. And I particularly like this quote because, well, I agree with Tolkien in that idea that if our world did have a little bit more equality in terms of financial availability and gain, then we would have a far more merrier world. We would feel this interconnection to each other in that we were all happy and we were all living this life instead of struggling, and some are very poor and can't hardly feed themselves, and some have millions and billions of dollars to themselves. Now, while I do believe in a certain independence and creativity that allows you to create that yourself and manifest that money, Tolkien was not a communist, and neither am I. I don't believe that the government has to get involved with taking that money and distributing it equally. But that maybe Tolkien was hinting at that each individual should take a look at their lives and see what is it that they can do for their fellow man, and how can they make it a more merrier world for each other, rather than hoarding gold and trying to gain a certain level of success in the world. But yet there's a greater type of joy that can be experienced. We can have far more partying with each other, and we can value these times of singing and laughing and eating together and great cheer. So Tolkien did have sort of utopian view, but he was not a utopianist. He was not a communist. And he spoke very much against those political views. In fact, I found out that what his political view is, including this idea of this sense of virtue of giving to others in need, he says that his political opinions lean more and more to anarchy or to unconstitutional monarchy. I would arrest anybody who uses the word state. So he really did not believe in the sense of nationalism, but he also felt very much like in his movies that we could be governed by a small type of government full of wise people. And if they had their hearts in the right place, then they could help kind of monitor life. So he was a monarchist. He really did believe in that type of political system. But if he was here in America, he would probably be more of a conservative, but also have some of his own values of liberty. So a little bit more of a libertarian too, because he really believed in freedom. And he was very much against the Communist Party trying to enforce this way of kind of equal wealth. But he did believe in the idea of how if you can instill in everybody, and Bilbo was that example for the dwarves, if you can instill in everybody to be less selfish and to give of yourself when you can, and not value so much the gold and the silver and the money in the world, but rather value seeing people happy and joyful and in good cheer, then it would be a merrier world for everyone. And so that's what Tolkien believed. And since we just passed the holidays, I wanted to read you what Tolkien said. In one of his father Christmas letters, he wrote this December 23rd, 1931, to his children. My dear children, I hope you will like the little things I have sent you. You seem to be most interested in railways just now, so I am sending you mostly things of that sort. I send as much love as ever, in fact, more. We have both, the old polar bear and I, enjoyed having so many nice letters from you and your pets. If you think we have not read them, you are wrong. But if you find that not many of the things you asked for have come, and not perhaps quite as many as sometimes, remember that this Christmas all over the world there are a terrible number of poor and starving people. I, and also my green brother, have had to do some collecting of food and clothes, and toys too, for the children whose fathers and mothers and friends cannot give them anything, sometimes not even dinner. I know yours won't forget you. So, my dears, I hope you will be happy this Christmas and not quarrel, and we'll have some good games with your railway all together. Don't forget Old Father Christmas when you light your tree. So that was one of Tolkien's letters where he pretended that he was Father Christmas. So he tried to instill this value in his children to think about others that may not have as much as you, and to remember that it can lead to a happier world when you include others in your wealth and your prosperity. So even though Tolkien did not like communism and he also was not a utopianist, I do believe that if he was alive today, he would want a future type of world where everyone could live in more of a prosperous nature and could have everything that they desire, and no one would be starving or homeless. So if you can think about a smaller, wiser government that can allow that to prevail for all its citizens, that's the type of the government that he would want, that would help to bring forward this type of economy for everyone. But really, besides government rule and systems, it's really just a reminder for each of us to remember to be grateful for what we have, and to remember those that might not have as much as us. And I wanted to read you one other thing here in another letter to Michael Tolkien, his son, December 1962. He writes a long letter, but at the end he says, well, here comes Christmas, that astonishing thing that no commercialism can in fact defile, unless you let it. I hope, my dearest, that it will bring you some rest and refreshment in every way, and I shall remember you in communion, as always but specially, and wish that I had all my family beside me in the ancient, patriarchal way, your own father. So he also thought that Christmas was a time to show that although you might buy or you might make and create something for your friends and your family, and there is a bit of commercialism there, there's also a spirit of giving. There's a spirit of charity there. And so it's hard to defile the holiday of Christmas to Tolkien because of that. He was looking at more of the positive side of things instead of looking at just the commercialism of Christmas, which sometimes can happen. So it's just a nice little reminder from Tolkien to remember that if we have this spirit of charity within us, we can actually give to others, and in giving to others, we will have a more merrier world. It won't just be us in the party, but it will be all of our friends, all of our families, and even those that we have not even met yet. And this is how we have one big party in the world. And so it's a very nice thought from Tolkien. And I do believe that it could happen in the future if we all remember this spirit of giving and keep that side of balance within us to live the lives that we all want, but also to be aware of those that are in great need. So Han and Lei for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.